Welcome to School Matters. I'm Joni Kobus, and today we're going to talk about the changes in the new state report card and our district's improvement strategies. We have two experts with us today. Mr. Keith Millard, you are the Assistant Superintendent of Instruction, and Mrs. Terry Fitton, our Director of Elementary Programming. So welcome.
Well, thank you.
So first, it's very confusing to your average person, even to people that are obviously inside of education. So let's talk first, Keith. There's been so many changes throughout the course of the year of the report card in the last 15, 20 years. Let's talk a little bit about that, how it's evolved and changed.
Sure. When you go back to almost 20 years ago now to the very first proficiency test in Ohio, originally they were in grades 4, 6, and then we had the 9th grade proficiency test. In the late 1990s that changed, and there were a number of additional tests in grades 3 to 8 added, as well as the 10th grade Ohio graduation test. And then we had a report card that used descriptors such as excellent, effective, continuous improvement. And now we have a new report card this year that has moved to an A to F grading scale. And while on certain levels A to F is easy to understand, I think that one of the messages we want to get out are what is it that goes into that A to F, and how do you get there, and what is the district doing to improve how we look in that report card?
And Terry, we had said earlier off camera, we all the districts, you did the 4th, 6th, 9th grade proficiency. Districts are doing well, getting the high marks. So the state said, well, this isn't working. Let's change the playing field, if you will. So I think that might be some confusion to parents in school districts. It's just when we get up there to where we're close to be, then they change and say, let's look at something else.
And that's pretty much how it should be. We should always be increasing what we expect of our kids. And I think Hamilton has always done the very best that we can to meet those marks.
I know personally as a parent, I always thought it was my responsibility for my child to attend school. It shouldn't be a bad mark on the school or the school district, but maybe that's another program. But anyhow, so you're right. We used to have excellent, effective, continuous improvement. I think the state's thinking, people would better understand, like you had mentioned, A through F. So with that, actually, this is the first year we've had a first glimpse of it. Really, 2015 is the first official year of that. Is that right, Keith?
Sure. On the report card this year, there are 9 measures that every district across the state is getting a grade on. And for this report card and the next report card, districts are only going to get grades in those measured areas. There will be some additional ones that come on board next year. But the idea is that the Ohio Department of Education wants to give districts and communities time to get used to the new report card, to get used to the new measures, to plan improvement strategies around the new measures. And in 2 years, in the fall of 2015, the full report card will finally be released. And in that full report card, districts will get an overall letter grade of A to F, and it's going to be all of the measures combined that will lead to that final rating. And buildings also will get an A to F rating. Those are 2 years down the road. The district right now is working very hard to look at the data, make sense of the data, and develop improvement strategies that are going to take where we are now and put us in the best possible place for the highest letter grade that we can strive to achieve when that's a reality in 2015.
And it's safe to say, too, every school district across the state pretty much took a hit on this first glimpse of the report card.
Right,
it was sort of eye-opening for all districts.
Right. And I think it's important, too, to understand that, as you mentioned before, as we're sorting it out and figuring out how we manage a new way of being measured, that the state is that's why it's taking a few years for it to all come into place. They're figuring out, okay, what are the best ways to do this? So we're all kind of in flux right now.
Right.
I think something else that's important to add is, as we think about this new report card, the tests that make up the letter grades that we currently are getting right now will be changing over the next couple of years. So not only is the report card changing, and not only are the accountability measures changing, but beginning next year, the number and types of tests that students are going to have to take are also going to change as well. So this is going to be an ongoing, evolving process. So when we look at this year's report card, and we look at next year's report card and then the following years, it's not going to be an apples to apples comparison, if you will, because I think it's important for the public to understand that the types and the rigor, if you will, of these tests, how hard they are going to be, is going to increase over time. That's going to be for all students across the state, not just here in Hamilton.
And you talked about tests, and starting next year, all the students will take their tests online on computers. And we just know this year, starting, you have your little first graders trying to manipulate the keyboard. So that is a learning, in itself.
And that's why we're very thankful that we've got a year or two to get our kids ready for that.
Right, and we're very fortunate. We spent some nice money to get like $3,000 of devices in the hands of our students, so we can prepare them so they know how to work. It's not only knowing the test, but knowing how to manipulate the computer and what have you. So I think we're ahead above a lot of other districts in that aspect.
Right.
Sure.
So.
3,000 new devices across the district. We've invested in Chromebooks, which are on carts. We have 7 carts of Chromebooks at every elementary, and multiple carts also going to our middle school, freshman school, and high school. The idea is prepare students to be producing lots of content with these devices right now and experience test taking on these devices now, so when they have to do that for real with this next generation of tests, that they're able to do so successfully.
And Keith had mentioned earlier about the data, and we always look at the individual needs of each child, and so the teachers are really looking at, where's Terry deficient, what help does Keith need? So you're really looking at the individual child and where they need to be, have their weaknesses, better off.
And that's every year. That's part of our improvement strategies. Is to look at that and create interventions and enrichments for our kids so that they're always moving forward.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the 6 components in this year's report card. First is the achievement. How the students doing on their tests. They have to meet like 80%, I think, in order to meet the indicator. So I think we fared pretty well with that, again, looking at first blush.
Sure. Our achievement scores, if you took last year's report card and you just applied the measures from last year's report card, we had similar results this year when compared to last year. Going back to how the state calculates A to F, it's important to understand that what you need to do in order to earn a letter grade is much more rigorous under the new report card system. It is very hard for any district in the state to earn an A. You have to have just outstanding results. Even a B is a mark that you really have to have a good result year in order to attain. So when we look across the buildings and across the districts, we have pockets of grades that are really good. We have pockets that we certainly need to work to improve on. But the state, with this new report card, and it really shows in the achievement part of the report card, because there's 2 letter grades that are there.
Right.
The state really has moved to reduce grade inflation, if you will. Under the old system, almost every district in the entire state was able to earn one of the 3 top distinctions on the old local report card. And there was a lot of inflation, if you will, in terms of those accountability measures. So with the new system, the state has made it harder, and they want the letter grades to really reflect the descriptors of those grades. So when we went to school, and it's still the same, an A is excellent, B is good, C is satisfactory, and so on and so forth. The state wants those letter grades to truly represent those descriptors. And so when you see a C on the report card, there is an inclination to think, well, that's not necessarily very good. Under this report card system, a C, not that that's the highest we want to strive for, but a C is not bad either.
Right. And that's a different mindset. And like you said, when we all went to school, or other people, A's are very, very good. C's good, but you're saying it is good, but it's not as what we used to remember as your ABCs.
Over time with the old report card, everybody was getting in the A, the B level. It was easy to get up there.
Right.
And the state wants the report card to more accurately reflect how districts are doing across the state, which is one of the reasons why it's tougher to earn those letter grades.
Another component is gap closing. Students in the demographic groups that we have, are they making the adequate yearly progress? And again, they're targeting, it seems like, reading and math. Those are the two subjects. Is that right?
And for all of our students, when we look at our kids and we want to see how the system is doing overall, we want to look at the different components. And so for all of our demographic students, we look at that particular component. Are there other ways that we can reach these students that we haven't used in the past? So.
That's good. Graduation rate. It's 4-year graduation rate versus 5-year graduation rate. And that's an interesting component, I think, as well.
Sure. In Hamilton, we've made a very firm commitment to all of our students to meet them where they are. And the nice thing that the state has done with the report card is you get credit for your 5-year graduates, which was not always the case in the past. So for our students that their pathway in life may take them longer than 4 years to graduate, we get credit for working with them as well. In looking at this year's report card, we were 0.4 of a point away from the next higher letter grade with our 4-year graduation rate, both at the district and the high school level. Again, difficult to earn the really high marks, but we're working at it, and we certainly believe we're going to be making improvements in those areas.
And the 5-year graduation rate, summer school, which, we're very fortunate to be able to offer to our students.
Yes.
And we've also had students from other school districts come to our summer school, but we were able this year to have students graduate who might have been missing or not passing one section of the OGT, Ohio Graduation Test, or maybe were deficient in 1 or 2 credits, and they were able to make that up in the summer. We had a nice summer graduation at our last board meeting.
Sure, absolutely. We're really working to put lots of programs in place at the secondary level that help students to recover credit if they find themselves in those situations, and do it in an anytime, any place environment, so they're not having to recover credit just by repeating the whole class. So how do we help provide those recovery opportunities to help them graduate?
And we congratulate those kids for sticking with it. It's easy to say forget it, but they persevered and it paid off.
Absolutely.
So very good. Next one is progress. Are the students growing academically? And we talked about gifted, students with disability, what have you. Again, as we say, looking at the individual student and looking at where they are and where they need to go. And that's another component that I think is a one that's very well done.
That's something that we work on all the time.
Right.
Those target groups are really difficult. Our special ed students, making the kind of progress that we hope to make every year is a real challenge. And then for our gifted students, we are always trying to find new ways to challenge.
Push them too.
Yes.
And another one is the K-3, kindergarten 3 literacy, which again goes into effect sort of next year with the 3rd grade guarantee. So explain that a little bit, Terry.
Well, the 3rd grade guarantee was put in place so that we make sure that all of our 3rd graders, by the time they leave 3rd grade, are reading at a level where they are able to, they're then reading to learn as opposed to learning to read.
Right.
And so we have, our state has put into place the 3rd grade reading guarantee that ensures we test the kids at the beginning of the year. If they're not on track and where we think they need to be, it's a state standard that they have to meet, then they're put on a reading improvement plan. And the students go through that. They're tested again at the beginning of the next year. We have interventions, everything from after school intervention to interventions during the school day like Title I to intervention periods in the school day where the students are grouped by their needs. And so our hope is that every kid will be able to leave 3rd grade when they need to.
And let's make a plug for that. One of the initiatives we're doing this year is, we had over 500 volunteers throughout the course of our school buildings, and we're really targeting this year on getting volunteers in our elementary schools to help with the students with their reading, like half hour, 30 minutes for each student.
Yeah.
So explain a little bit about that program.
What we'd like to do is we'd like to have retired teachers or any person who would like to volunteer to come in, and we would provide training for them to provide really strong supports for our kids in reading development. And so we would have them work with a student for a half hour at a time. And ideally it would be great if we could have the person work with them 2 days a week for half an hour.
Right.
But anybody who would be interested, please give us a call and we can use all the help.
Or if you could come an hour, you can have 2 students throughout the course of that hour. And again, you read to them, they read to you, they do sight words. So it's we would train them on what they need to do, but it's fairly easy.
It's fairly easy, and it's not new learning for them, it's
Right.
practice, because one of the most important things for kids to be able to learn to read is that they practice a lot.
Right.
And so this is just another opportunity and another adult to connect with. So,
True.
yeah.
The last component for this is the Prepare for Success, Keith. And again, that'll sort of filter in 2015, but that's talking about college and career readiness.
Sure. There will, and it starts to show up on next year's report card, and then letter grades would start showing up in 2015. But it's all of the measures. So, for example, number of students that are taking the ACT and what their results are, number of students that are taking the AP exam in a variety of subjects and how they're doing, number of our students who are earning national merit status or who are earning honors diplomas. So all of these different components, really what it's getting down to at the secondary level are what are multiple ways beyond a single test that we can look at how our students are doing and are they prepared for what the mission of the district is, which is to prepare students for college, career, and life.
Right. So it's a perfect fit for that.
Absolutely.
So that's great. All right. So we have these components. Know what we're doing. As we said, I think all school districts are struggling to trying to figure out what to do. And as you mentioned, Terry, the state's still juggling, trying to figure out. But we have like 3 improvement strategies that I want to talk about. The first one is +5. Explain what the +5 is, Terry.
+5 is, we looked at the data from the students from last year, and in each of the areas such as reading, there are 4 major components, such as acquisition of vocabulary and reading process. There's different ways that they separate out the questions. We look at the number, start looking at raw points and how many points in that area did they get out of the number that they could get. Then we look at, if we could get them to get just 5 more points, what would that do and how would that improve our scores and their learning?
Right, sure.
And so we've taken a look at that, and we've set targets for every kid in the district. And as we're going out, Keith and I are going out to work with the schools on their specific data. And so we're charging them, pick 2 areas for your kids that are their highest need. And the kids will that'll be the focus for your interventions. As you're teaching in class, those kinds of focus areas will be pulled out for those particular kids as you go through the regular curriculum.
Very good. Another improvement strategy, Keith, is review sheets. And I think is that targeted for grades 2 through 8?
Sure. This year, and this is new, every Wednesday, our students in grades 2 to 6 for language arts and 2 to 8 in math are receiving weekly review sheets that are going home in a green 2-pocket folder. And the purpose of these review sheets is to provide ongoing practice with these foundational skills at each grade level that's going to help them not only be successful on the end of the year assessment that they have to take for the state, but also is going to provide them with that rich, solid foundation that will be a benefit as they move up through the grade levels. And this is a strategy that we are using in all 8 of our elementary buildings as well as our 2 middle schools. And the nice thing is that every building is participating in the same practice. So no matter whether you're Ridgeway or Brookwood or Garfield, the sheets go home on Wednesday, they come back on Monday, and the teachers then get to use the information from those sheets to provide targeted supports to students in areas where they specifically need it. So it's thinking about, again, going to what Terry said before, how are we providing supports for each student at the point in time that the supports are needed, as opposed to waiting for a proficiency preparation time really close to the test time.
And we encourage parents and family members to help with the review sheets. Are they time consuming? Is it easy, or not easy, but is it another 2-hour piece of paper, or is it a short, brief thing that the parents could work with their students on?
And that's a great question. We absolutely encourage parents to work with their child or children on these review sheets. It is not something that is going to take hours and hours. We have limited the math review sheet to a single page front and back. We've limited the language arts review sheet to 2 pages front and back because there's a reading passage associated with those. So it's not something that's meant to be long and cumbersome, but again, it's the ongoing practice with current and review skills, that is going to make the difference.
So we ask parents and family members to look for those green folders with the review sheets.
Every Wednesday.
Very
And
good.
to really support getting those back, because that not only is it great practice for the kids, it's great information for our teachers.
Right.
Because if over a month I see that a child has had problems adding fractions, I know that's a place I need to intervene. And so
Right.
so we're really asking the parents, please make this a priority.
Right. Make sure we get it back so
Yeah.
we can check, see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, the third improvement strategy is student learning objectives or vocabulary words. I think you called it Tier 2. Explain a little bit about that.
Tier 2 vocabulary are those higher level words such as very or catastrophe, words that bring a richer meaning to when children read or when they write. And we looked at the data and found that over 5 years, we looked at our acquisition of vocabulary data on the Ohio Achievement Test, and we are always low. We are always lower than the state average. So a good, strong vocabulary correlates to a lot of wonderful things in life, such as success in college, such as earning power when they graduate.
Right.
So that's something that we really need to help all of our students with. And this goes across the grades and across the schools, everywhere that we are. So we decided to develop these Tier 2 vocabulary lists, which include those kinds of words as well as operational words that will help them when they take tests like explain or justify, those kinds of words, so that our kids will have access to those kinds of things. Comprehension of reading will be better. Well, they'll understand the kind of questions that they're asking. I mean, that's our if you would say our immediate concern for the test is they understand what they're reading and what they're being asked. But over the years, when you think about having a list of 200 grade level words across the board, those kids are going to really come out with a much richer vocabulary. And for some of those kids, they never would have heard those words or been really exposed. This is something that we're taking on not just in language arts class, but across the entire school. And so, generally speaking, a person needs to hear and experience a word 17 times before it becomes part of their working vocabulary. And so we're charging PE teachers and art teachers and music teachers and the cafeteria workers and everybody start using these kinds of words. So everybody will have a list and they'll know what those target words are.
Yeah. And like Terry said, the reading and writing, it's across the curriculum. So your social studies teachers, so we're all saying the same language, same words, so they can understand.
And as far as parent access, because we absolutely believe that we're only going to be as successful as our strong partnerships with our parents are in supporting these initiatives. On the Hamilton City Schools website, every week the review sheets will be posted. So if you know that your son or daughter is supposed to bring them home on Wednesday and you don't see them, it's in my locker, or my friend threw it out the bus window. Not an excuse anymore. You can download those right from the website, and so those are available. And then we're also going to have these vocabulary lists on the website as well. We absolutely know that our parents play such a vital role, and we certainly want to make this information readily available to them on the website.
That's great. I think this is a good time too to commend the staff, because they've gone through a lot of professional development for this. We talked about looking at the data of each individual student, so our teachers have really gone above and beyond to try to look at where the deficiencies are for each student. And that's a lot of work for them. So I think we need to say, thanks to them.
Absolutely. It's a different world that we're preparing our students for, and our teachers and all of our staff members take very seriously the charge of preparing each and every student to be as successful as they can possibly be wherever their life path takes them when they graduate from Hamilton High School. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. In a lot of ways, the least time-consuming part of a teacher's day is actually getting up in front of the class and working with the class.
Yeah, teaching's the easy part, right?
Exactly. In a lot of ways, the teaching is the easy part. It's everything else that goes into looking at the data, making lesson plans that grow each student from where they are to where you need to get them. And our teachers really have bought into these strategies. They're working hard, and we just absolutely couldn't do this without them. We appreciate them.
Well, and you mentioned teachers. also this year we're doing the teacher evaluation system, and so that's another layer. They're trying to, it's more direct information. They have to do their, more paperwork for them. So if you see, teachers out there a little stressed, you can understand why,
Yeah.
because so many changes coming down all at the same time.
Right, right. And the new teacher evaluation system, I think, it's a coaching model, and what we hope to do is make our teachers even better than they already
Right,
are.
stronger, right.
And I think that that's something that it can be a little stressful, because teachers are used to being evaluated about every 3 years, and now they're being evaluated every year in a very rigorous way.
Right. So a lot on their plates. As we said, sometimes teaching's the easy part of it, but we're giving them everything that they need to be successful, so that they in turn can make sure that their students are successful.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good. Well, it's a lot to digest, and I know it gets confusing, and you read things in the paper or see it on the news, and things just don't make sense. And as you had mentioned earlier, Terry, districts all across the state are struggling and learning all this stuff as the State Department itself is trying to fine-tune what things are going. So we appreciate you guys coming in and explaining a little bit about it. So I know we'll see more and more about it, and I think it'll be exciting once we get this first year under our belts with not only the teacher and the principal evaluations, but this and the strategies that we have in place. I'm confident that will work to our benefit as well. So I think we're moving in the right direction. We're getting there, and I'm anxious to see how it turns out. I'm sure we'll have you two back, explain a little bit more.
Okay.
So thank you guys for coming.
But thank you.
And for TV Hamilton, I'm Joni Kopis, and we thank you for joining us on this segment of School Matters, because school matters. See you next time.